Good morning. We're here on the Monday after July 4th, and I know that there's been a lot of crazy weather in various parts of the country. We're dealing and seeing it I'd say about 75, 80 miles west of us here, and hopefully people are finding higher ground, finding shelter, and hope and pray for the best for them. As we saw on Friday, the one big beautiful bill, I like to call it the 1BBB, or the OTB to be short, has been signed into law. I wrote up in this post some analysis based on what I've read from a variety of sources. A lot of people have taken the time to really try to look at this and kind of figure out what's in it. As I think I said maybe on Friday, and I certainly told my students on Thursday night, or Tuesday maybe, this is this is just a crazy thing to exist. I'm not a fan of omnibus legislation. It always comes off as like a Frankenstein, and trying to figure out what it does is a challenge. Obviously, people who are opponents of the bill, and it's understandable, have talked about the impact that it is likely going to have negatively on lower income households and those who are primarily needing support through what we know of as transfer payments, and especially those who are enrollees in Medicaid. And there is certainly a lot that this bill does to try to reform Medicaid. That's what their sponsors and advocates will say. This is an effort to try to reform Medicaid and reduce its long-term cost. And I've seen some charts out there. I didn't share them because it's going to be household by household in terms of how this bill is going to affect people. The one thing I can say objectively from what I've read is that this bill does not increase federal tax burdens for anybody. Nobody is going to see a tax increase at the household level. Now, some companies will see tax increases, particularly those that are receiving incentives or subsidies tied to programs that are being eliminated in this bill, most that are having to do with green energy. And so you can say at the business level, there's some businesses out there that are going to lose incentives that's going to, whether it's going to increase their tax bill or potentially increase the cost for customers to buy their products, such as electric vehicles. But in general, when it comes to household taxes, nobody's household taxes are going up, and in a lot of cases, taxes are going to be going down. That is in large part where the savings from Medicaid reform are going, in terms of from a balance sheet perspective. If you reduce, that's kind of where the balance off is. However, there are some other areas where spending is going up, primarily in immigration enforcement, as well as in defense, and a lot of it being in defense capital spending for the Department of Defense, whether it be ships or missile systems or other items. And naturally, this is going to lead to an increase in the deficit. It's projected that the terms of this legislation will increase the deficit by $2 trillion, an additional $2 trillion over the next 5 years. CBO has to score and forecast out 10 years. I'm not a fan of that. If you were to look at it from a 10-year perspective, you're looking at $3.5 trillion. So an extra $1.5 trillion for that extra 5 years. To me, that's what they have to do. I don't really focus on that. I focus on what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And so there's obviously going to be a lot of need to respond and adapt to what this legislation is going to do. And I would say states are really going to have to focus on that. And I mentioned that last week. States are really going to have to roll up their sleeves and figure out how they're going to adjust with respect particularly to Medicaid. It's not going to reduce their Medicaid costs, because even though there's the likelihood that enrollment's going to go down due to work requirements and other features of this legislation, their cost share is going to go up. And so as a result, especially in those states that did Medicaid that did Medicaid expansion. They've got some challenges ahead, and we will see what they do. There might be a state or two out there that would look at state tax increases to help cover it. I am not as confident that you're going to see that in most places, and so it's going to be, do they pull back on what they did with expansion? And I think a lot of states are going to do that. I would imagine North Carolina, because they wrote their budget bill when they passed expansion a couple of years ago. They wrote it in a way that they can kind of claw it back on the basis of what the federal government decides to do. Naturally, this is going to lead to a lot of debate, and it's going to be a very polarized debate, and it's understandable why that is the case. So it's certainly something that we will be looking at very carefully. North Carolina has not passed its budget yet, so they will now have the opportunity to kind of factor this into their final decisions for their upcoming biennium, and I guess we'll just have to go from here. But hopefully everyone stays safe today and stays dry. Take care.